You can write, hey, I live in New Jersey. I just heard about this. We support Cowboy Ron Turner. We live in Montana. We support him. Give him back his material and apologize, okay? We can do this because this is systemic, really. This is just one case of so many cases that you see, Mack, that we see, that I know Alex sees every day, and there's just not enough hours in the day to try to cover it all, try to help all these people. So we've got to call attention that this is actually going on in our communities, and maybe then they'll be a little more scared to go picking on little mom-and-pop stores and antique stores like this, knowing that they could go to the media and people like us, and that the truth will eventually come out. Quickly, let's talk about the hypocrisy about gambling laws. I lived in Rhode Island. I saw this firsthand, the bribery, the extortion, the pressure, the low-handedness of how these people deal with these gambling laws, how they set this up, how they acquire the land to have these casinos, how much money they make off of the casinos, that being the government and all of those with deep pockets. But talk for a minute about the hypocrisy in Montana or otherwise of these casino laws.
Well, there are thousands of casinos, as I understand it, on these Indian reservations in Montana, and that's true of other states as well, New Mexico and all over the place, not here in Texas. But here in Texas, they've got this lottery,
Right.
And so gambling is everywhere. And I'm not a gambler myself.
Oh, come on. You can go online and gamble on sports and lose everything, okay?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the way to protect the public from the scourge of gambling, is to, raid some little mom-and-pop store.
Well,
That's
maybe
ridiculous.
if Ron would have just paid them off or whatever you're supposed to do, maybe they would have left him alone.
Well, you see, that's what I think really is at the bottom of this, is that this is symptomatic of a police state. That when you have the government taking this much power and also giving the enforcers, their cops out there on the street and their agents, with all this power to go out there and raid places, giving them power over people, that power is going to be abused, and it's going to contribute to corruption on the lower levels, you see. And so
it really is a police state mafia. I mean, they went and visited Cowboy Ron Turner many times, probably shaking him down, wanting him to pay protection money or insinuating or leaving that door open. And if he had done that, obviously he would still have his property.
Yes, this more and more this nation is becoming like Mexico, where the government is so corrupt that it breeds corruption on the lower levels of the police hierarchy, and so shakedowns and scams and outright thefts are more like by the so-called police are more likely to occur, and people have very little recourse. And I don't know how many times this sort of thing must go on, and it doesn't get reported.
Yeah. Well, it's getting reported now because of the alternative media, and that is a responsibility I don't take lightly, and I know you don't either. In addition to the financial loss, Ron Turner is also facing state misdemeanor charges for possession of unlicensed gambling devices and felony charges for transporting the items over state lines. The felony charge is punishable by 10 years in a federal prison and a $50,000 fine per item. Where does he stand now?
So far they have not actually pressed those charges. And
isn't that interesting? That's the same thing that happened to Mr. Salata of KT Ordnance. They went and they raided him. They took his property, won't give it back. They shut his business down, and they never charged him.
Yeah, because they don't want this to go to court. But I have a feeling it's going to go to court because the last I heard, Cowboy Ron has retained a lawyer.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he needs to fight this with every fiber of his being. I mean, this is where I become speechless. So what can we do? We can write letters to the editors of these newspapers. We can write the, people at the BATF or the GID. What else can we do, Mack, about this, other than just letting people know that this is happening?
Well, obviously that's the first step, is to get the information out there, because what's interesting about this story is how when this did break there in the local media, it caused a bit of a PR problem there in Montana. And whereas those valuable items that were stolen might have just disappeared, now they're in this sort of limbo. They're thinking, well, maybe we'll put them in a museum or so forth, okay? And the other thing is that by going public, they're not going to, press charges now because they would like to defuse this thing.
Well, hey, they want to give him back all this and pay some restitution and make an apology. I guess we can let it go away.
Well,
but at this point, I mean, the best thing he can do is to get it to court.
That's absolutely. But, the other thing that we can do is that if anything like this should ever happen to you, do not be afraid to go as public as you possibly can with it and to let people know. Go to the media, email, just like Cowboy Ron did. I get this email, and I'm doing what I can to make it known. And that's the way to stop this kind of thing dead in its tracks.
That's right. They don't want to be embarrassed. Let's embarrass them for all it's worth. Let's really put egg on their face and let them have to live with it. You've made I think, a pretty appropriate analogy about how everything is criminal now. They've criminalized everything. You made an analogy with the Alcohol Beverage Commission last year arresting, to prevent drunk driving, going into bars and arresting people who are drinking, giving them public intoxication tickets, one of which I have now. There's nothing we can do anymore that isn't illegal according to our federal government.
Absolutely, yes. They're criminalizing, things that otherwise, at one time, were considered innocent and still should be. Yes. Common sense alone.
So much for being an innocent bystander. So much for being a law-abiding, tax-paying, God-fearing citizen.
Yeah, but they are afraid of publicity. Otherwise, those agents would not have gone in there the next day after it hit the news there in Montana and been so upset with Cowboy Ron for going public. They're afraid of publicity.
I'm counting on my listeners, Mack, to help get this story out and to come to the rescue of Cowboy Ron, because but for the grace of God go I, and you, Mack.
That's right.
I look forward to getting together with you real soon, Mack. Give me a call anytime, and thanks for doing the show today. Good luck with your show tonight.
Thanks for inviting me.
Folks, we'll be back tomorrow on VD Day. It's a Valentine's Day tomorrow, and we'll be sharing the love with you on our program tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to all the sponsors, the listeners, the GCN Radio Network. Mark doing a great job up there in Minnesota. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, I'm Jack Blood saying, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid.